I'm going to finish this in less
Okay,
than 5
people,
minutes, okay?
it is not
So
an
the
attractive,
individuals that have those adaptations pass them on to their
image.
offspring.
However,
The
this is what you're
environmental
getting from
condition
Mrs. Breck today. So I'm going to condense
is
2, 5, 2,
benefiting
6,
is
and
going
2,
to
7
then kill
into
off the
one
organisms that
video,
don't have that trait.
because
If the organism
I
doesn't have the trait,
think
then
they sort of all
it's
go
going to die
together.
off. The
I'm gonna
organism
have
that
to
has the
excuse my
trait is
dogs
going to
if they
survive
bark.
and
They're
reproduce
in
and pass
the
that trait
room,
on to
and
their
they
offspring.
are kind of being annoying, but that's what it is.
So natural disturbances, as you can imagine, are any natural event that disrupts the structure or function of an ecosystem.
May become disadvantages.
So it's something that's not
depending on what's
man-made.
happening in the
Tornadoes,
ecosystem,
hurricanes, asteroids, forest fires,
the trait
droughts
that used to be
are all
the
natural
best
disturbances
suited is now the least suited.
And
So
they
a drought
are
could kill off
or
finches that
can
have
be
smaller beak,
worse
making
than
larger
human
beaks,
disruption.
for
They
cracking
can
seeds
cause
harder,
more
but
devastation
then
to an
later,
ecosystem, and there's no rhyme or reason always to these threats.
that might not be as
so they
beneficial.
can occur on
just depends
periodic,
what happens
episodic,
to
or
that
random time frames.
ecosystem, and
Periodic
what pressures
is
are
like
being
regular
put on
frequency, so
on
a
those
dry wet
organisms.
season.
Episodic is
As events that occur
environments
with irregular
change,
frequency, so like during similar times, but you don't always get the same organisms will
and
eventually
then random.
evolve.
There's
However,
no regular
if a
frequency at
ecosystem
all.
changes
So
rapidly,
volcanoes,
the
earthquakes,
species have
asteroids. I don't know when the last
a less
asteroid
ability
was.
to evolve and adapt to
Those
those
cause
changes.
major
For
disruptions
example,
to
if
naturally occurring
the environmental
ecosystems.
changes too fast, some species might migrate
We
out,
also have to
or they
consider
might
the
die
idea
off
of
completely, which
natural
is what
climate
happened when we saw
change.
the dinosaurs.
Hear me
The change happens
History
too fast,
has seen
and then those organisms could not
changes
survive
in its climate over geologic
it's one
time
of the
for a
theories.
variety of reasons.
For
Slight
example, if the
changes
ocean
in the
warms
Earth's
too orbit and
quickly,
tilt,
some
can
species
cause
are
many
not
ice
going to be able to
ages and
survive. That
warmer
ecological
periods.
tolerance is going to be
These
out
are
of their range,
called
and they're
the
not going to be able to
Milankovitch
survive.
cycles.
That's currently what we're seeing happening
These
with
are
climate
not
change.
the cause of our
The
current
shift in
climate
climate
has happened so
issue.
rapidly within the last 250
These
years.
are things
and
that are
evolution
predictable
takes
based
larger
on the
organisms like
eccentricity
mammals
of the Earth's
like thousands
orbit
of years to
and
evolve
the
because
tilt. So
they
as
don't often
the
have lots of
Earth
babies at one
wobbles,
time, and you have
and
to have a
as
genetic
the
trait that makes
orbit
them better suited to
shifts,
survive in that environment.
can
So you
cause
need high genetic
changes, but
diversity,
these are
but you also need to have
regular.
those
They
traits
come in like
that are beneficial. So it's
10,000,
not just
40,000,
high
and
biodiversity. You have to
100,000
actually
year
have traits that make you
intervals.
better suited to survive in
So
the environment.
not what we're talking
The
about
longer
right
the
now.
lifespan of
But
an
that
organism,
natural
the slower
climate
the rate of
change has
evolution. The
caused
longer the gestation or
changes,
the time that they
to
are
Earth
pregnant,
systems.
the slower
The
the
sea
evolution.
level has also
the
varied
more
over
babies they
geological
have,
time as the
the
glacial
slower the
ice has
evolution.
melted, whereas
And
viruses and
reforms,
bacteria can
so
adapt
these
and
are
evolve
all
within
things that occur
days.
naturally.
Humans, large mammals,
When
takes
environmental
thousands
change to millions
happens.
of years.
Habitats
Okay.
are disrupted. So
the data
any
table shows the
major
beak size of
environmental
finches from two
change
different
are
islands in the
going to
Galapagos.
result in a
Describe the
widespread
difference in beak
habitat
size between the
change
two islands and
or
make a
loss.
claim about the reason
So
for
a
this
rising
difference
sea
in
level
beak
is going to
size.
impact
So
estuary habitats.
that's the end
So
of Unit 2.
is the sea
okay?
level rises
You
what
are
used
going
to
to be assessed on that. My advice for you is
now going to
don't
be
work out
wetland.
and then try to make a
So
video for your
these
students.
are things
That's my life
that
advice for the day.
that you
Keep it
can
coming, teacher.
predict
Or any
based
video,
on
or don't
changes
jump
that
on
we're
a Zoom
currently
call.
seeing.
Then you
The other
like
thing we'll see is migration.
Although,
The
to
migration
be
of
fair, I look like
species
this
will
in a lot of
change
videos.
based on those
Anyway, have a
habitat
great night, and I will
disruptions
see
so
you
that
later.
they can follow rain patterns or make sure that they have enough food. That natural migration happens in areas where they have periodic changes, but they'll also eventually have to move to survive shifts with warming climate. We've seen that some species are shifting further north. That's why we had the spotted lanternfly outbreak, because as climate gets warmer, they can move further up the coast. So if you think about these natural disturbances, if you can examine this graphic and explain the relationship between latitude and the change in first leaf date depicted, and explain why you think that relationship exists. So like change in color is what it's looking at. So think about that. Why do you think that's happening? And take a look at these, take a look at this key at the bottom to help you. We're going to move on. I'm jumping straight into 2.7, which is ecological succession, because after a natural disturbance, you're going to see changes to that ecosystem, and those changes happen in a predictable series of steps. It's mainly forest, but we can also see it happening in other ecosystems. There's two types of succession. Primary succession. Primary succession is going to occur when there's no previous soil formation. So this is like when a glacier recedes, you have primary succession. When a volcano erupts and forms an island, you have primary succession. What happens is you have organisms that come in and they land on that bare rock, they can actually grow directly on the rock, leach nutrients from the soil, and help break the rock down into soil. So those are called pioneer species. They help to build the soil up in that ecosystem. And then as the soil forms, you have smaller grasses and plants growing, and then eventually you'll have like bushes and shrubs, and then larger trees until you get to what we call a climax community. My dogs are really okay. They're wrestling over there. It sounds like it's really scary, but it's not. Dogs, hey. Wait, oh, say hi to the kids. Say hi to the kids. Oh, I know. Yeah, this is Crosby. Okay, so that's primary succession. It occurs on bare rock. Okay. Secondary succession happens after those disturbances that we just talked about. It can either be a natural disturbance or it can be a human-caused disturbance, but it clears out the majority of plant life. The difference here is there is already soil existing. So when that happens, you don't need those mosses and lichens. You really just need grasses to start growing. So you go from somewhere that already has soil. And the pioneer species that come in are grasses and perennial plants. Perennials are things that come back year after year. So flowers, bushes, grasses, they're going to come back year after year. As they die and decompose, it's going to add nutrients to the soil. And you can see the organic layer and the topsoil is increasing or getting deeper into the soil as it develops. That is all a predictable pattern of succession. The three stages you need to think of are the pioneer species or early succession. Those are the things that come in and either colonize bare rock or bare soil. They are fast growing. They can easily be spread by wind and animals, and they are tolerant of full sunlight and shallow soil. They don't need a lot of nutrients. Okay. These are things that are hardy plants. Okay. The mid-successional species are going to appear after pioneer species have developed that soil that has more nutrients. They can grow and pull nutrients from the soil, and when they die, they decompose and add more nutrients. They're also fast growing. They tend to be a little bit larger, and they are also sun tolerant. And then the final stage is what we call a climax community. The climax community appears very last after the soil is fully formed. It's enriched with nutrients. It's got lots of humus there. Those are large, slow-growing trees or plants that are tolerant of shade. They like to have a deep soil so that they can grow their roots. These are things like maples, oaks, and other large trees. So the climax community is going to happen after all of these things have occurred. So remember, primary succession is going to be in a place that hasn't previously been colonized. So there's bare rock. You have your moss and lichens. They're going to leach nutrients out of the rock and help to create this chemical weathering process that allows soil to form. Shh, come here. That's Crosby. He's loud and annoying. Secondary succession occurs in an area that's already had soil established, and the plant life was removed by that disturbance. These pioneer species are plants that have wind dispersed seeds, and they're sun tolerant. They're easy to grow. They're perennials. They come back every year. And this helps to enrich the soil by having these species come back. So based on the graph below, explain whether spruce trees are early, middle, or late successional species. You can take a look at this graph to help you determine that.